Hello and welcome to our new podcast on the protection of intellectual property rights in China. We're very happy to have with us today Peter. Hi Peter.
Hi Leonardo, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us. Today's episode will address the protection of intellectual property for the clean tech industry.
It's a very topical subject nowadays. And why do you think that EU SMEs should pay attention to the Chinese clean tech sector?
Well, China is the fastest growing market for wind and nuclear power generation, and the government is investing heavily in exploring renewable means of addressing its immense energy needs. And this, of course, offers great opportunities for European cleantech SMEs. Likewise, do not be surprised if Chinese entities are actively on the lookout for European technological advancements in the field of clean tech.
Exactly. Companies should therefore be aware of the IP risks when planning to export their technology to China, or be aware that their technology might be in high demand. But what does this mean to have an IP strategy for clean tech companies?
IP strategies will differ based on the type of clean tech businesses. How IP fits into the overall business strategy will depend on whether the business is a startup or a growth business, as well as the maturity of the technology.
Indeed, different businesses will use IP to achieve different objectives. Can you please share an example with us?
Of course. For instance, a manufacturer of wind turbine components might consider investing resources towards obtaining patent protection of a component designs because it allows for stronger protection in court in case of infringement. On the other hand, a cleantech business that develops a biomass on-site power generation system looking to license the technology across China may want to obtain patent protection and explore ways to protect key parts of the technology.
Very clear. Would you then say that patent protection is the most common form of IP protection in this industry?
Yeah, it's very important that EU SMEs build a valuable cleantech patent portfolio, as it can bring other tangible business benefits such as stability, credibility, increased valuation, access to investment, and financing. In other words, patents are very important, but do not forget about other IP such as trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets, as this will be often part of a comprehensive IP strategy.
And how do you protect your patents when having to deal with contractors or partners or other parties in China?
The decision to monetize IP through licensing must be taken after careful consideration of a number of important factors, including the type of licensing, the technology in question, or the technology field. No matter what decision you make, it is incredibly important to have sound contracts in place that have been checked by an experienced IP attorney.
And what about selling your IP?
That is also an option, especially when IP is no longer attached to a product or a core aspect of your business. One benefit of a sale versus a license is that in a sale, a business can obtain immediate cash flow, whereas in a license, royalties typically take at least 2 or 3 years to materialize when the product hits the market. When trying to decide whether to sell IP, it is important to recognize that a potential purchaser may see different value in the IP than the seller, and therefore it is advisable to retain an outside consultant to determine the value of the IP before selling.
Thank you, Leonardo, for this practical advice.
Thank you for joining us today. For more details on IP protection in the clean tech industry, you can download the business guide on our website at china-iprhelpdesk.eu.
Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn to keep up with our new events and publications.
Last but not least, if you have any specific questions on how to protect your IP, don't hesitate to send an email to our helpline at question@china-iprhelpdesk.eu. Our legal specialist will reply within 3 working days, confidentially and free of charge.
Thank you very much for listening, and see you all for the next podcast.